Ukraine's billionaire presidential candidate Petro Poroshenko has declared victory. An exit poll suggests he got enough votes to avoid a potentially divisive runoff. Also, Ukraine's former world heavyweight boxing champ claimed victory as the mayor of Kiev, but the voting did not come without challenges. CCTV's Roee Ruttenberg begins our coverage with details live from Kiev. Hello, Roee.
Hello and good morning to you. Indeed, Vitaly Klitschko, the boxing champion there, was on stage. He's now the new mayor with Petro Poroshenko declaring victory. Both men here late on Sunday night. This could not have gone better for either one of them. Petro Poroshenko going into the polls last week, it was unclear if he would indeed win with an outright victory. He needed 50% plus one. Early projections here showing that he had 55, even 57%. It might be several hours before we get the actual final results, and even a few days before the Central Election Commission actually declares him the next president. But it is clear from everyone here, including the people that we're speaking to, that he will indeed be Ukraine's next leader. We also heard concessions and congratulations from Yulia Tymoshenko, the former prime minister, who up until the last minute was saying that the polls, the projections themselves going into this election were wrong. Tymoshenko, of course, is a favorite candidate, was a favorite candidate, I should say, by Moscow. She was more familiar in the West thanks to her years of imprisonment under the ousted president Viktor Yanukovych. Of course, many of our viewers may recognize her from her famous blonde braids, but she was unable to emerge victorious on Sunday night, largely because many people simply wanted her out of politics. Petro Poroshenko, of course, being a billionaire, one of Ukraine's richest men, he has some conflicting interests with Russia. Some of his assets have been seized there. His company, Russia, and a chocolate confectionery factory and company, having some problems with Russian authorities. He has said he will negotiate and work with Russia, but at the same time, he wants more integration with the European Union and with the West. Now, to put more of this into perspective, I'm joined now by Maxim Estravi. He's a freelance journalist here in Ukraine. And Maxim, over the course of the last several months, you've been tweeting a lot, following the events here. I've been following a lot of your tweets. First, I'd like to know with you, what do you make of Sunday night's elections and the result, an outright victory for Poroshenko?
Oh, definitely they're quite historical, and Maidan, will wake up in several hours in a totally different country with a legitimate president, first time in months, and it was a crucial point for the whole Ukrainian revolution. And we saw a historical turnout in many provinces and in Kiev, for example, too. But at the same time, very tragic development in eastern Ukraine, where over I think 80% of people weren't able to vote, and because of violence and threats from pro-Russia rebels. And this is kind of a legitimizing point for this whole divide between the rest of the country and eastern Ukraine. That's the main point that Russia was searching for or trying to push Ukraine to.
We'll get to the east in a second. I want to talk about the Maidan, the square behind you. You said a new day for them when they wake up in a few more hours. But many of these people, it's unclear if they even vote or support Poroshenko. He is, after all, to some people, a recycled candidate, a former economy minister and foreign minister, under some of these very politicians that these people wanted to see out of office. So how likely is it that they'll even leave the square?
I think the main point right now to focus is just a general election, because, Maidan today is a very different place with very different people are staying there, because a lot of them, before revolutionaries, they joined the National Guard. They're actively fighting, in eastern Ukraine right now, and a lot of people just left. And what we see right now is just, dozens, maybe a couple of dozens, maybe up to 2,000 people there on the daily basis, which is not kind of representative of anything. But yeah, truly, this is a sacral place right now for Ukraine, and how it will transform, in what way it will become, in what way it will be in a couple of months is the question. But I think it will stay sacral place because of all fallen dead here a couple of months ago.
We heard Poroshenko in his victory address saying his first trip will be to the east, to the Donbass region, these troubled regions of Donetsk and Luhansk. How significant of a trip will that be, and how productive can it be?
I think they will face a lot of troubles during this trip, because let's face the fact, the bigger chunk of territory in eastern Ukraine army doesn't control at this point. And with today's voting, with a lot of people unable to vote, it was clear that Ukraine is not in control of bigger part of eastern Ukraine, and to travel there is a lot of pressure on security for Poroshenko, and it's even hard to understand if he will be successful traveling there to meet people when they don't control anything.
And Maxim, briefly, what is your view on what's next for Tymoshenko? Does she disappear off the radar?
We got a clear message that Ukraine doesn't care about Tymoshenko anymore, and I think she will not disappear, definitely, but I think it's really hard to predict if she will able to stand as a powerful person in local politics. I think it's done for her, at least for now, because of those crucial defeat.
Maxim Estravi, freelance journalist here in Kiev. Thank you so much for joining us. And in just a few hours, the sun will rise here, as Maxim said, on a new day in Kiev, in Ukraine. The future remains uncertain for many, but one thing appears more certain than it was yesterday, that Ukraine does have a new president that will be taking office here in the coming weeks, and he's made a clear mission, as we heard him speak here on Sunday night, to end the crisis in Ukraine.
I think that's what everyone wants, Roee, to end the crisis, peace and stability. Thank you so much.